The best poker player alive walked into one of the oldest casinos in London, sat down at a game with zero skill in it, a game that is a pure coin flip, and in 2 nights he beat the house out of nearly $12 million. He didn't count cards, he never touched the cards, he didn't do one single thing the 100 cameras hanging over that table could catch. Security checked him for devices, nothing. They checked the dealer, clean. They checked the shuffling machine, clean. He beat the most unbeatable game in the building using the one thing nobody thought to protect, the pattern printed on the back of the cards. But here is the part that makes this more than a heist. When he went to collect his money, the casino looked at the tape, realized what he'd done, and refused to pay him a penny. So Phil Ivey did the one thing no card sharp in history had ever dared to do. He took the casino to court. He stood up in front of the whole world and explained, step by step, exactly how he beat them. And what happened in that courtroom didn't just decide his money, it rewrote the law for an entire country. This is how a man beat a game of pure luck for more than $20 million, and how the woman sitting next to him, the real brain behind it all, found the secret in the last place you'd ever look. I'm Marlo. This is Money Trail Cases, where I take one outrageous true story and follow the trail all the way to the end. And this one is my favorite kind of case because nobody picked a lock, nobody fired a shot, nobody even broke a law, at least not one anybody could name at the time. They just noticed something the casino never did. So let's go back to the beginning, because the money always leaves a trail, and let's follow it. To understand the size of what Phil Ivey did, you have to understand who Phil Ivey is. They call him the Tiger Woods of poker. 11 World Series titles, ice in his veins. The man other professionals are simply afraid to sit across from. When Phil Ivey is at your table, you are playing for second place. He's the best in the world at a game of pure skill. So in 2012, he set his sights on the exact opposite, baccarat, or to give it its full name, punto banco, a game a child could play where you make not one single decision that matters. You bet on which of 2 hands wins, the cards come out, and that's it. Pure chance, with the house holding a small permanent edge. Nobody beats baccarat, not over time. The math forbids it, which is exactly why casinos love it. It's the game of the whales, the billionaires who bet $100,000 a hand. The house knows the cards are random and the odds are fixed, and they know that the longer a whale plays, the more certainly the math grinds him into dust. So when Phil Ivey called the Borgata in Atlantic City and said he wanted to play high-stakes baccarat, they rolled out the red carpet. A world-famous gambler, ready to throw millions at the one game he could not possibly beat. It was the easiest money the casino would ever make, except Phil Ivey wasn't there to gamble. And he wasn't alone. The woman sitting next to him knew a secret about the cards themselves, and she learned it in a place the casinos would never have guessed. Her name is Cheung. Everyone calls her Kelly. Kelly grew up rich. The daughter of a wealthy Hong Kong businessman, she moved through the casino world as a VIP, a high roller, the kind of gambler casinos drool over. Private jets, 5-star suites, unlimited credit. They were happy to let her play because they knew exactly how her story would end. High rollers don't beat the house. They lose. And they lose big. And then one day, she lost too much. She'd signed for a marker, a line of casino credit, the kind of thing that moves through that world all the time. But this one came due, and it went unpaid. And in Las Vegas, defaulting on a casino marker isn't just a debt. It's a crime. They arrested her at the airport on her way out of the country. She was thrown in a cell, and she spent the better part of 3 weeks locked up, much of it in solitary confinement. And here is the detail that makes this whole story. In that cell, she had nothing. No phone, no television, no books. Just a single deck of playing cards to pass the time. So she shuffled them. For hours. For days. Over and over. Staring at the backs of the cards because there was nothing else to look at. And that's when she saw it. Something on the backs of the cards that, once she saw it, she could never unsee. The casinos had put her in that cell. And in that cell, they handed her the one secret that would let her beat them. When she got out, she didn't run from the casino world. She walked straight back into it, armed with the flaw she'd found. The gambling world gave her a nickname, the Queen of Sorts. So, what did she see? When a factory prints the pattern on the back of a deck, it's supposed to be perfectly symmetrical, so that no matter which way you turn a card, the back looks identical. That's the whole point. The back of a card is supposed to tell you nothing, but printing is cheap and printing is never perfect. On certain decks, the pattern gets trimmed a hair off center. The little diamonds running down one long edge end up cut just slightly differently from the diamonds on the other. We're talking about less than a millimeter, invisible to you, invisible to the dealer, invisible to 100 cameras. But to a trained eye like Kelly's, one edge screams high card and the other screams low card. This is called edge sorting. And on its own, it is completely useless. Because in a real game, the cards get turned every which way, a random jumble. Knowing the flaw means nothing unless you can somehow get all the cards that matter turned the same way, facing the same direction, so you can read them coming. In Baccarat, the cards that matter most are the 7s, the 8s, and the 9s. Know that the next card out of the shoe is one of those before it's flipped, and the coin flip stops being a coin flip. The house edge doesn't just vanish, it flips. Now the player has the advantage, and at $150,000 a hand, that advantage is a money printing machine. But there's a wall in the way, and it's a tall one. Ivey can't touch the cards. Touch them, and it's obviously cheating. On camera, game over. The cards have to be turned by the casino's own dealer, which means Ivey needs the house to sort its own deck against itself, and to do it without ever realizing what it's doing. How do you get a casino to hand you the keys to its own vault? You don't break in, you get invited in, and you make the casino's own greed do the work. Ivey makes a series of requests. Every single one sounds like the harmless quirk of a superstitious rich gambler. And every single one is a gear in the machine. He wants a private room. He wants a dealer who speaks Mandarin. He wants his good luck companion, Kelly, sitting right beside him at the table. He wants to play with one single shoe of purple cards, one specific brand, kept in play the entire night. And he wants an automatic shuffling machine to shuffle between hands. To the casino, this is nothing. High rollers are famously, ridiculously superstitious. Lucky seats, lucky colors, lucky rituals. They blow on the cards, they tap the table 3 times. And this particular whale is about to bet millions of dollars a night. You do not say no to that man over the color of a deck of cards. But look again at what he just asked for. The private room hides the method. The single reused deck means the same flawed cards come around again and again. And the automatic shuffler, this is the masterstroke. It shuffles the order of the cards, but it never flips them over. However a card is facing when it goes in, that's how it comes out. And the dealer who speaks Mandarin, that's the key turning in the lock. As the cards come out, Kelly speaks to the dealer in Mandarin, a language the floor managers watching the table can't understand. She tells the dealer that certain cards are lucky, and she politely asks her to rotate those cards a half turn before they go back in the shoe. For luck, the dealer, charmed by these eccentric, big spending millionaires, happily obliges. Card by card, hand by hand, the lucky 7s, 8s, and 9s all get turned the same way. The shuffler keeps them that way. And slowly, invisibly, over an hour or two, the casino's own deck sorts itself until every high card in that shoe is facing one direction, and Phil Ivey can see it coming before a single chip hits the table. He never touched a card. He just asked the house to arrange its own deck for him. And the house said yes. Pardon the interruption, I've taken a shift on the floor, strictly for the investigation. And let me tell you, from this side of the table, the house always wins. Almost always. If you want to see how the few people who beat it actually pulled it off, hit subscribe and ring that bell, because the next case is already being dealt. Go on, then come back to the table, because this is where Ivey's quiet little streak turns into something the casino can't ignore. To feel how big this was, you have to understand what a casino actually is. A machine built on one idea, the house edge. Every game on that floor is tilted just a few % toward the house. It doesn't need to beat you. It just needs you to keep sitting there while the math does the rest. Baccarat is the purest version of that machine. No skill, no decisions, nothing to practice. Just the whales and the math always wins. The one game in that building, nobody beats. And Phil Ivey and Kelly Sun turned it into the one game they couldn't lose. At the Borgata, he plays 4 separate times across 2012. The wins are staggering, millions a session. And every time, the Borgata pays him in full, smiling, because as far as they know, they've just run into a hot streak. And a hot streak always comes home to the house in the end. By the time he's done there, he's up $9.6 million out of one casino at Baccarat. And here's something the casinos didn't know at the time, and most people still don't. The Borgata wasn't the only one. Ivey and Son had already run the same play across Las Vegas first and walked out winners. The Aria, Caesar's Palace, Treasure Island, every one of them paid in full, never suspecting a thing and never asked for a dime back. The 2 nights in London were just the biggest score of a run that had already made them a fortune. So they take the act across the Atlantic. London, Crockford's, a private members club so old and so exclusive that catering to a whale's every superstition is simply good manners. They sit down at £150,000 a hand. In less than 2 nights, they are up nearly 12 million. It's working perfectly. Too perfectly. Because a win that big, that fast, at a game of pure chance is about to make someone in that quiet London club stop and stare at the tape. Crockford's gets nervous before it gets suspicious. Somewhere in that second night, a manager makes a decision. Change the deck, bring in a fresh, unsorted shoe, and the instant those cards change, the magic dies. The edge is gone. Ivey and Son, ice cold, simply stop. They collect a receipt for their winnings, thank the staff, and walk out into the London morning up £7.7 million. A fortune in a single weekend. Then the silence begins. Crockford's doesn't wire the money. Instead, they pull every minute of footage and they watch it. Again and again and again. Until at last, they see it. Not a trick, not a gadget, not a device. Just a woman, quietly asking a dealer to turn certain cards, hand after hand after hand. And they finally understand. They sorted their own deck. They were robbed in slow motion, in full view, by their own good manners. And so they refuse to pay. They hand him back his £1 million deposit, and they keep the $7.7 million he won. 2,000 miles away, the Borgata does its own math and realizes that famous hot streak was never a streak at all. They want their money back. Both casinos now have Phil Ivey's winnings in their sights. Most men in his position would go quiet. Keep the money the Borgata already paid. Walk away from the London cash and never say the words edge sorting out loud again as long as they lived. Phil Ivey does the exact opposite. He picks a fight he could lose everything in. He sues a casino. Think about how insane that is. A man who just beat a casino with a secret technique walks into the High Court of England and says, "You owe me my winnings." And then he freely admits, on the record, in open court, exactly how he won them. He doesn't deny the edge sorting, he explains it. And he makes a bold argument. This wasn't cheating, it was advantage play. He never touched a card, he never lied about what a card was, he never altered the game, he simply spotted a flaw the casino built and never fixed, and he used it. A casino, his lawyers argue, is an adversarial place, a cat and mouse game, and protecting its own cards was the casino's job, not his. The whole world watches the greatest gambler alive stand up in court and argue that beating the house with its own carelessness is perfectly fair. He loses, he appeals, he loses again, and then he takes it all the way to the top. The Supreme Court of the United Kingdom, 5 justices, the highest court in the land. One last gate between Phil Ivey and his money. October 2017. The verdict comes down, and it goes against him. The court rules that even though Ivey never touched a card, and even though he was completely honest in court about exactly what he did was still cheating. Their words. He staged, quote, a carefully planned and executed sting. The game is meant to be pure chance, and by quietly getting the dealer to sort the deck, he had fixed it. And that was enough. He loses the $7.7 million in London. And in America, a court orders him to repay the Borgata $10.1 million, everything he won across those 4 nights. And here's a detail that's almost too perfect. When the Borgata went after the company that actually made the flawed cards, the printer whose tiny mistake made this entire $20 million scheme possible, a court ruled. The casino could recover from them a grand total of $27, the price of the cards. But the money isn't the twist. The twist is what those 5 justices did on their way to taking it. For 35 years, British law had used one famous test to decide whether a person had been dishonest. A test from a 1982 case taught to every single law student in the country. The justices in Ivey's case looked at that old test, decided it was wrong, and threw it out. And in its place, they wrote a brand new legal definition of dishonesty. One that now governs every fraud trial, every theft case, every dishonesty charge in England and Wales, and they named it after the case in front of them. They called it the Ivey test. Read that again. A poker player tried to win back his casino winnings over the pattern on the back of a deck of cards, and the highest court in the country used his sting to rewrite the legal meaning of dishonesty itself. Today, every law student in Britain learns what it means to be dishonest from the case of the man who beat a casino at a game of pure luck. He lost the money. His name became the law. So here's where the room splits in two. To one half, Phil Ivey is a genius who beat a rigged game at its own game. To the other, he's just a cheat who got caught. And the strange part is, both sides are staring at the exact same facts. And while you're picking a side, here's the question half the internet argues about. Why was he so greedy? A man reportedly worth over $100 million, with a method that secretly beat the house, could have skimmed a little off casinos for the rest of his life and never been caught. Instead, he took $7.7 million in a single weekend, so fast and so obvious that he forced the casino to look. Was that greed? Or was it something else? A man who already had all the money in the world, who didn't care about the cash at all, who just wanted to beat the most unbeatable game on earth and wanted them to know he'd done it? Here's what we know for certain. He never lied about a card's face. He never touched the deck. He never tampered with the machine. Every flawed card was printed by the casino's own supplier, turned by the casino's own dealer, and shuffled by the casino's own machine. All Phil Ivey did was notice and ask. The court said the noticing wasn't the crime. The asking was. And maybe that's the uncomfortable part. The casinos build machines designed to beat us with math we never check and edges we never see in games they swear are fair. Ivey found a flaw in their machine and pointed it right back at them. We've decided that's cheating. We've just never quite decided what to call the machine. Here's where it leaves us. Phil Ivey walked away from the two most famous casinos in the world, the single biggest loser in gambling history on paper. He gave back the money. His name is the legal definition of getting caught. And Kelly Sun, the woman who found the secret in a jail cell, the actual brain behind the whole thing, she never stopped. She kept playing, kept finding edges, and her life story got sold to Hollywood with Aquafina set to play her. They call her the Baccarat machine. As for the casinos, Crockford's, the place where it all happened, a club that had stood for nearly 200 years, closed its doors for good in 2023. And the casino industry changed its card handling rules around the world just to make sure that what Phil Ivey did at that table could never happen again. He found the one flaw in an unbeatable machine, he pointed it back at the house. And the house had to rewrite its own rules and the law itself just to stop one man with a deck of cards. I'm Marlo. This is Money Trail Cases. And if a story this absurd stuck with you, send it to the one person you know who'd never believe it actually happened. That's the best thing you can do for a channel like this. There's another trail already waiting for you on the screen right now. So go follow that one next. Because the money always leaves a trail.